So I'm recording now. This is our first session of EDSP 5315, which is our advanced study of developmental disabilities in the summer of 2022. And this webinar, I'll conduct one each Wednesday night, unless something comes up and we need to switch to another night or a different time. I'll conduct one at 7 o'clock every Wednesday evening through the first 7 weeks. We won't have one that very last week of the class. But it is not a requirement that you attend live. It's fun for me if you do, because we get to talk. And I think it can be good for you too, to get to have a little bit of interaction, both with me and with one another. And that makes it a little bit more like a traditional class. If you enjoy a traditional class with some interaction, that can be a good thing. Some people really thrive in that kind of an environment, as opposed to a strictly online environment. And so I like to do a webinar for most of my online classes for that purpose. It helps me to connect with people, to put a face with a name, and to be able to say yes and no to questions that may come up, and maybe field some of those things for a group that everybody's thinking, and not have to answer all those questions one by one if people have a misconception or would like a little bit of clarity on something. It is something that I want everybody to watch, whether they are participating live or not. So that's one advantage to participating live, is that you get it knocked out of the way and you don't have to watch it later. So what I tend to do as the weeks go by is we talk about some content sorts of things that you'll need to know for the quiz. And there's a quiz every week. And so you'll need to know some of the things that we talk about on Wednesday night for your quiz that opens up on late Wednesday night or early Thursday morning. So if you're wondering about when the quiz opens up, I think that was in the syllabus, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was in the syllabus when the quiz opens, but the quiz does open after our Wednesday webinar, because there will be weeks where content is discussed on Wednesday night that will be in the on the quiz that opens on late Wednesday or early Thursday, whenever I get around to opening it, whether it's after we finish up here, or before I go to bed, or when I get up the next morning. So like I say, the quiz will be open to you on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you've got those 4 days. If you're going to be, out of town, or you've got something critical that's going to be happening in your life those 4 days of the week, and you really need the quiz to be opened for you before then, you need to let me know that. And I will make an exception if I've got circumstances that you convey to me that you really need the quiz opened before that. Otherwise, the quiz is opened, like I say, either late Wednesday, early Thursday through the Sunday night due date. So let's go ahead and dive in and talk about the syllabus right now. That's the first thing I want to do. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to go to our class page, which is, let's see. I thought I had it opened. Maybe that's it. Is that it? We'll see. There it is. Okay, can you all see our Canvas page on the screen? No? Do y'all see the Canvas page? Yes?
The page that says library support, technical support.
It should say getting started. Welcome to EDSP 5315. That's not what you see?
No.
Okay, let me stop sharing and then start sharing again. Okay, is that what you see now? Okay, where it says getting started, welcome to EDSP 53. Okay,
Yes.
that's what you should see on the page right now. And I'm going to enlarge that. And that's the homepage of our class. And that should look familiar to you if you've been in the class already online. So the first thing I want to do is take a look at the syllabus. And I hope that this will just, now can you see the syllabus? Okay. What we've got here is our class syllabus. And I'm not going to belabor the parts that I feel like are kind of self-explanatory, but I'll talk a little bit about the things that I think matter. And the first thing that I want to talk about is your textbook. And as a couple of you have noted already that you've already gotten your textbooks, and this is the cover of the textbook that that we'll be using. And it's Teaching Students with Severe Disabilities. I happen to have the loose leaf version. You may have ordered the hardback. I don't know for sure if there's an e-version. I think somebody texted me the other day that they had actually ordered the ebook. That may be the newer version. This is actually I think this is the fifth edition. This is the fifth edition, which is what I'm using this semester. There is a sixth edition, which has an ebook, but I think you can use the sixth edition and we'll be fine. But I like the fifth edition because it goes the way my class is planned. And so the sixth edition is brand new. It was just published in 21. And so I decided to stick with the fifth edition because I don't think much has really changed in it. It's cheaper for you all than the brand new book. And so we're going to go with the fifth edition. If you have the sixth edition, if you got that one, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. But the fifth edition is the one that I told the bookstore to purchase. And so if you're going through the bookstore, that'll be the one that you get. But if you just ordered the title off of Amazon or something, you may have gotten the sixth edition. So fifth edition is the one that's listed in the syllabus. And like I say, that's the one that the bookstore should have ordered. Sometimes, and I said this to one of you, I think it was one of our Granbury girls, that I don't always have I guess I have a love-hate relationship with the bookstore. It seems like every single semester they get something wrong for me. And last semester I had an undergrad class and they ordered the wrong book. They ordered the book that another professor teaches from in a particular class I had. And there were students who never got the book right. And so all semester they continued to do the wrong assignment every semester. I mean, every week they did the wrong assignment because they never got the right book. And I kept saying, no, it's not students with exceptionalities, it's exceptional students. And they never did get it right. And so finally I just said, you know what, to heck with it. And I just started accepting the wrong assignments, because what do you do when the bookstore is responsible for the problem and they never do correct it? So I thought, well, they're getting some content right if they've got a book that's on basically the same topic. So I'd be doing a chapter on visual impairments and they'd be doing a chapter on ADHD. And I don't know how a student can't realize that when you're talking. Of course, I think the problem was they were never watching the webinars because I'd do a webinar on visual impairments and then they'd turn in an assignment on ADHD. And if you're watching the webinar and doing anything else that has to do with the assignment that week, I think you'd put 2 and 2 together. But some people never put 2 and 2 together on that. But it seems like these kind of issues happen with the bookstore a lot. So I really wasn't surprised when I found out that some of you didn't get your books when you needed to. So that's that about the textbook. If you find that you're having a continuing issue with your textbook, or you have the wrong edition and it's not working out for you, let me know and we'll try to figure something out. Technical questions having to do with Canvas or other kinds of issues like that are not my gift. And so those all need to funnel through the help desk. And that's the phone number is here. And then it's the, the last four digits are 1960. That's how I remember it. So it's the main Tarleton number, and then the last four digits are 1960. Or you can email them as well. So then we've got our student learning outcomes. I'm not going to belabor that. Got all of our basic reminders about academic integrity. I will just say that, that's a big thing with me, especially for my students in my class who are in my diagnostician program. We'll talk a lot about ethics as we go along in that program. Not everybody in this class is part of that program. We've got some folks who are working on master's degrees that are more global than the diagnostician program, but I know that all three of you who are on the screen today are part of that program. But academic integrity and overall professional ethics are critical, I think, for educators in general, and certainly for people who are pursuing the specialty of educational diagnostics. You will be asked over and over and over to compromise your professional ethics as an educational diagnostician, and oftentimes just as a teacher. You'll be asked to fudge on things in order to get kids services, or to get a particular accommodation, or to all kinds of, I can't tell you how many times I've personally been asked to compromise my ethics in special education by people who supposedly should be ethical themselves. And so this is something that we start right now with the practice of ethics. And so we'll just continue that on through our careers. But I would impose on you a really high degree of academic integrity, because it's something that you're going to need to have further on into your career. Certainly civility, excellence, all of these things that we have at Tarleton as part of our mission. And we'll just go from there. Now, our course is actually broken up into 8 different units, 7 primary units, and then the 8th one there is just kind of a wrap up that last week. But it just takes each of our weeks that we've got through the summer and has a focus for each week. The textbook is sort of divided that same way, and when it's not real neat, we kind of mold it to make it fit those weeks of our summer study. And it looks like the summer is just laying out there, and it's going to be long and hard, but you'll be amazed how quickly these weeks go, and you'll blink twice and August will be here and we'll be finishing. And so this study goes very, very quickly. We'll start off with this first unit, which is the first 3 chapters. And most of these, I think, have 3 chapters each, and most of them are in the same order as the textbook. I think I have a little caveat here that they may not all be in the same order, but I think most of them are. So like I say here, I've got a weekly webinar, 7 o'clock, subject to change though. Rhonda mentioned a moment ago that her mom has taken a fall, and so you've got some care that you've got to give there. My mother had a series of strokes over the Christmas break and then following into January, and it has changed my life. I'm now a caregiver, and was not up to that point. She was a very, very healthy, energetic and independent 89-year-old. And she's about to turn 90 in September and is now a very dependent, almost 90-year-old. And I have one sister who lives in Dallas, and we are sharing caregiving responsibilities for my mother. And so my life has changed radically in the last 6 months. But caregiving is a whole different kind of thing. And I'm appreciating more and more the topics of this course, because this course has to do with people who are pretty dependent. And my mother is more and more dependent now than she ever was previously in my life. And we're giving a lot of the care that many people who serve in roles as teachers and paraprofessionals in these types of classrooms give to their students. And so I have a new appreciation for teachers and caregivers in life skills kinds of classrooms. But we will have this weekly webinar that, like I say, may change if my life circumstances change or something else unusual happens. I'm off duty this week, but we'll be back on duty in a week or two while my sister takes a vacation. And so I'll be coming to you that week from my mother's house. And so when I do, the background will look a little different, a little bit more 1970s, a little bit less like my house here, but I'll let you know when I'm there. And she plays the television very, very loudly, so you'll probably hear some sort of game show in the background, but we'll just work around that. I'm pleased to say that she has improved quite a bit. I missed a good bit of the first part of this semester while she was in the hospital and then in rehab. And so my students who had me the first bit of this semester didn't get much from me. But all that to say that you'll just work with me through that. So like I said before, you can attend the webinar live and be interactive with me and your classmates, or you can watch later, but you'll need to watch one way or another, either be interactive during the actual live or watch later. I try to keep the webinar, and I don't think I have this written here, but I always try to keep it to an hour or less. And so you're not making more than an hour commitment when you sign on. So let's see. Any questions up to this point? Okay, we'll keep moving. Here are the graded components of the course. We've got 4 activities, and you may have already looked at the syllabus and all of the accompanying documents. There's an activity every other week. So there's 4, one the first week, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. There's a group project. There's a discussion board every week of those first 7 weeks. There's a research paper, something I call the choice assignment. There's a quiz every week. And like I said, those start on Thursday through Sunday. They're available. And then we have 100 professionalism points for a total of 1,000. Your traditional A through F scale. You've got your course calendar that shows up in Canvas. Professionalism is based on certainly on that academic honesty, then communication, collaboration, commitment, how you're developing professionally, your ethical conduct, for a total of 100 points. I don't typically take late work, but if we've got some unusual circumstances, I want you to talk with me about that beforehand if you can. If something, dire comes up, you let me know as quickly as you can what's going on. I'm not real good about taking real veiled reasons. I have something going on. If you could give me some time, I like detail. So let me know what's really going on, and then we can work something out. So be honest and upfront, and I'm usually very willing to work with you. If this says, 50% reduction in the credit that you would receive, if you've worked something out with me ahead of time and I know what's going on, that's negotiable as well. Class expectations, you need to read your chapters. You need to complete all of your activities, projects, and participate in class activities. You need to know how to work your computer. And you're agreeing to the syllabus after you read it. And then there's our course calendar. So what I want to do right now, if we don't have any questions right there, I want to pop over to, let's see, I'm going to go back to the home page. Are y'all back to the home page with me? Okay. I want to look at the, let's see. Course calendar at a glance is right here in this nifty little spreadsheet. And I may have to share my screen again if this doesn't show up the way I want it to. Let's see. Okay, I'm probably going to. Okay, now I'm going to have to share my screen again so y'all can see this document. Okay. Can everybody see this spreadsheet? Okay. On the spreadsheet, and this, like I say, is on Canvas. This is a breakdown of each week and the unit that we'll be covering that week and the activity that you're responsible for that week. This really helps me to get a mental grasp on what's going on in the course. So as I said a few minutes ago, we've got an activity every other week. We've got a discussion board every week, a quiz every week, and then these other assignments as we move our way through the course. So this just outlines that for you. So unit 1, 2, 3, 4, that's basically week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so we have activity 1 the first week, activity 2 is the third week in unit 3. The third activity is in the fourth week, and the fourth activity is in the 7th week. Then we've got a discussion board. You can see there's an X in each one of those boxes for the first 7 weeks. So we've got a discussion board each of the first 7 weeks. We've got a quiz in each of the first 7 weeks. We've got the choice assignment in the 4th week, unit 4. We've got a research paper in the 6th week, and we've got a group project in the 8th week. So any questions about how the assignments for the course are laid out? Activities every other week, beginning this week, discussions each week, quizzes each week, a choice assignment in week 4, research paper week 6, and group project week 8. Any questions about that? Everybody got it? Okay. So y'all are not a very chatty bunch tonight. Let's talk a little bit about this week's assignments. Have you had a chance to get started on any of them? Anybody?
I've watched the videos,
Good.
the self-determination videos,
Yeah,
and I read the guide also, the self-determination guide.
good. Good. Anybody else?
I've done the same. I've watched the videos about self-determination, looked at the PDF, and then watched the story about Jill's life. So,
Okay, good. What do you think about that?
it shows how when they're limited, it really sets them back in their development. You know, when she was put in that home, it really regressed her abilities and her skills over time. And it shows that after, even when she came, like before being in the home, what she was able to do, being in the home, how that limited her and she regressed. And then, you know, when they got her back home and started working with her again, how she was able to redevelop some of those skills. So it was just real eye-opening to see, you know, big picture, when you work with them, what they're capable of doing. And when they're left to be nothing, they are nothing. And so
Right.
pretty insightful.
Right. Hi, Becky. We're glad you joined us.
Guys, I'm so sorry I'm a little late.
That's
We
okay.
were at dinner, so I kind of had to get in a little bit late.
Well, you're breaking up there a little bit. We just went over the syllabus. So you're gonna want to go back and watch what we did at the beginning, okay? And now we're talking a little bit about this week's assignments. I think that the quality of live video is just one of the most moving things I've ever seen. It gets me every time I watch it. The young woman is just, it's a heartbreaking story. And you wonder, how things might have been different for her if different approaches had been taken from the get-go. And I just feel for her family because, things were done that were just, not in her best interest. I think, probably against their better judgment, against, without their knowledge sometimes, and I just wonder how many of those kinds of situations occur all the time. So, very interesting to me. I hope that those kinds of situations are less frequently occurring than they have been historically. I'll talk about my daughter throughout this course, and she's actually going to be a guest speaker for us in a few weeks. She lives in Austin now. She's a former life skills teacher. She taught life skills for 12 years, and at several different schools, a few here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, until she decided to take my grandchildren away from me and moved to the Austin area. And when she got there, she went to work at Westlake High School. That's in the Eanes ISD, but some of you may have heard of Westlake. They've got a reputation as being a football powerhouse. So you may have heard of Westlake High School. But she was there at Westlake for, I think, about three or 4 years, three years, I think, and worked in their high school life skills program until she got a job at TEA about 2 years ago. And I think the timing is right there because I think they've been gone for 5 years from Fort Worth. And she worked 3 years at Westlake, and then she's just finished up her second year at TEA. And so I kid her about that because I've been an educator, well, since before she was born, obviously, since the early 80s. And TEA, is big brother to educators, and they're the ones who tell us what to do and what not to do, and sometimes they get in our business. And so I said, I can't believe you've gone over to the dark side, and you're working for TEA. But she's enjoying what she's doing, and she's using all of her special ed skills. And so I think she's hopefully using all of that for good for some school districts across the state at this point. But she's going to be with us here in a few weeks to talk to us mostly from a vantage point of a life skills teacher with a lot of longevity in that position. But also a little bit, she'll talk a little bit about some of her insights from TEA. And so I think that you'll enjoy that. She was a very successful life skills teacher, and spent her entire teaching career in a life skills program, and just loved it. And it's interesting because there's someone who's just gotten into the diagnostician program who has spent most of their career. I don't think she's in this class, but she'll take this class next summer. But that's where she has spent all of her career. And I tell people who want to be diagnosticians, I say, sometimes it's hard if you've spent your whole career in life skills because you don't know that academic element of the whole school picture. And that's where most of the action happens for diagnosticians. You're mostly evaluating kids with learning disabilities. And that's where most of testing happens, and evaluation and referrals and that kind of thing. And so if you haven't ever taught kids with learning disabilities or reading difficulties or any of those kind of things, the only academics you've taught are functional academics, then you're a little bit at a disadvantage. But I think we've also had some great diagnosticians who have all their experiences in life skills. You've also got, people who've come into the diagnostician realm who have spent all their time in general ed, and they've, got no exposure to life skills. And then you've got kids on your caseload as a diagnostician who need life skills programs. And so, it's a kind of a situation where you're going to have a disadvantage one way or another. So you just kind of have to make up the losses wherever you find them. But I think that we've got to look at that big picture and see where kids are and what we can do to help them, regardless of where we find ourselves in our career. So of those of you who are on the screen, do any of you have experience with students who have significant or what we would call low incidence disabilities, those who are significantly impaired? Any of you?
My very first year, I was in a PPCD classroom in Stephenville, and we had everything from AU to, I don't even remember what the disability was, but he was nonverbal. He was in a wheelchair. So pretty vast just in that class, but they were 3 to 5 year olds, but then
Right.
within the classroom, not severe disabilities.
Okay. Thank you, Lindsay. Rhonda, did you say you have also?
Yes, when I was at Eagle Mountain Saginaw, I worked with the homebound special ed department and had 3 young men who were not able to attend school.
Okay, because of
due
the
to
severity
their-
of the
their
disability?
Severity.
I see. That's interesting. Okay. And Becky, did you say that you have had some of those kinds of experiences as well?
Worked as a former pre-K, like early childhood special educator my first year of teaching. And I had a student that had Down syndrome, so it was definitely like a very difficult challenge working with those types of students.
Thank you. Now, Melissa, you've spent most of your time in general ed, right?
Yes, ma'am. I've done mostly general ed. Next year I'll be a resource teacher, but still it'll be mostly with just learning disabilities. I did work as a para in a behavior unit, and I worked with emotionally disturbed kiddos and autistic kiddos, but I haven't worked with like IDD
Right.
particularly, or severe physical disabilities. So
Right.
this is learning.
Yeah. And this is why you're here, is to get an array of experiences and knowledge under your belt about the different types of disabilities. That's what special education is. And for those of you who want to be diagnosticians, certainly, I tell all of my students, if you're getting a special education certification, it's not specific to one disability or 2 disabilities. You are all level and all disability types. And so if you get a special education certificate, that qualifies you to teach, qualifies you in the broadest sense of the word, qualifies you to teach children with, something as mild as a math disability or a reading disability, all the way down to a student who is in a wheelchair with a breathing tube and no purposeful language and non-ambulatory, all those kinds of things, and everything in between. a student with a significant behavior problem who, who hits the teacher and bites the classmates and, all those kinds of things. And I remember the student that I had who took all of his clothes off and, rubbed feces on the wall. And I'm thinking, okay, now wait a minute. Nobody told me about this in school. I don't know how to do this. I know how to teach the child who can't read very well. So what am I supposed to do about this? And somebody help, and it took several of us to work with that young man. And then that young man got bigger until he was a really, really big young man. And that was eye-opening on lots of levels. I grew up without any brothers, and so I learned a lot of things in that situation. But and certainly for those of you who want to be diagnosticians, the certificate entitles you to serve all of those same students and to recommend to their teachers what to do. So you got to fill your toolbox with lots and lots of information. And that's what hopefully this class will help you to do, whether you're coming from a teaching perspective or a diagnostic perspective. So our first unit covers some of the definitions and descriptions and those kinds of things that have to do with students with significant disabilities. And some of that is what will be on your quiz tomorrow. Becky, you sent me a message a little bit earlier about when the quiz opens up, and each quiz opens up after our Wednesday webinar. And so after the webinar on Wednesday, it'll either be late Wednesday evening or early Thursday morning, and it'll be open Thursday through Sunday of each week. Okay, but I talked about that earlier in the webinar, but just go back and watch the whole webinar, and you'll I go through the syllabus, and you'll get all of that information. Okay. So I don't think I'm going to talk much more right now. Each of these webinars, Becky, goes less than an hour. So if you can tune in on Wednesdays, that's a good thing. And you can have all your questions answered and anything else that we might want to talk about. Any questions right now before we go ahead and close out today? Anybody?
So since Melissa and I don't have our books yet, will we be able to take the quiz, or will that be something that we'll have to do later?
You may want to wait, okay? Since you
And
don't
I
have your
had
book.
emailed you, I'll be out of town all next week. I'll be out of the country even, and we won't be back till late Saturday night. So
Okay.
will that affect my assignments then for?
Let's you and I talk about that, okay?
Okay.
One thing I have is definitely like kind of going over the first activity. I know like I started working on it about doing the proposal for the district. I just wanted to see kind of like or explain kind of how like what your expectations are and kind of like how you wanted this to be set up.
Okay, let's look at the first activity then, okay? I'll go back to my sharing. Now let's go back here to home and develop a plan as if you were proposing a policy to implement for coordinating related services or improving the utilization or efficacy of paraprofessionals in your district. Okay, what I want you to be thinking of, and this is an idea, a notion that I want you to carry throughout this course, is that you are master's seeking students. Some of you already have a master's and are working on a certification. You all have at least a bachelor's degree. And so you are no longer bachelor's undergrad students. You are on the next level. So you should be thinking as a master's student. You are at this point in your career, you should be preparing to teach others and be a leader in your school. And so this is what most of the assignments are designed for. You as an educational leader. That's what a master's program is. Okay. Now, I will say this in general. I am not going to pre-grade assignments. So you can't send me every assignment and expect me to review it and give you feedback on every assignment. Because in a master's program, you're expected to be thinking at a higher level and to be performing at a higher level. So I expect you to be thinking as an educator, as an educational leader at this point. That's what a master's program is preparing you for, is to be an educational leader. So you are to be developing a plan as a leader, as if you were a coordinator or a supervisor, a person who is overseeing teachers at this point, developing a plan as if you were proposing a policy to implement in your school for coordinating related services, coordinating or supervising related services through a consultative model, or improving or utilizing the efficacy of paraprofessionals in your district. So how are the paraprofessionals in your district operating? And what's a model that you would come up with to facilitate the operation of those paraprofessionals in your district? What could you do as an educational leader to help your director, perhaps, to facilitate the operation of those paraprofessionals more effectively? Because remember, a person who has a bachelor's degree is the person who is the one who operates at the teacher level. The person who has a master's degree has to be above that. You've got to be operating at a higher level than a bachelor's level teacher. So I'm anticipating and expecting a higher level of performance and thinking than a bachelor's level student or program participant. Does that make sense? Becky, am I answering your question? Okay. So I'm not going to preview all of your assignments before you turn them in for a grade. Okay. Okay. So that's this assignment. You need to come up with a plan that would help in your school district, help facilitate the way paraprofessionals are operating and help them to do that more efficiently and effectively. So most of us have worked in a district where perhaps paraprofessionals were not being utilized most efficiently or effectively. Maybe they are just spending their time helping get kids from class to class, or maybe they're just helping get kids supervised in the lunchroom. And what could we do to help utilize those paraprofessionals more effectively? What's happening right now in schools is that we've got a lack of bodies to do the work. We don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough paras. We don't have enough substitutes. We don't have enough people to do the work. I think this is the first time in history, in my history at least, and I've been doing this for 40 years. This is the first time I ever remember there not being enough bodies in the school to get the work done. So this is such a relevant assignment. How can you, as a master's seeking student, help your administration, your special ed administration, come up with a plan to more effectively use the personnel that they do have. So you've got to think on a higher level, put your experiences, your skill, your learning, and maybe your research into practice and make a suggestion on paper as to a plan that would more effectively and efficiently use the staff that you have. And usually that staff is at work with students who have more significant disabilities, like the students we're studying in this class. So how can you use those people, those paraprofessionals with this population, and do so effectively? Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the activity. I don't, when is this activity due? Does it say it's due this week or next week? It says it's due this week. Yeah, so that's due Sunday. All right, that's the main thing that's due this week. Then you've got a discussion board and you've got this quiz, okay? Any questions? All right. Rhonda, did
One
you have a
quick
question? Sure.
Yes, ma'am. I was looking at the discussion board. I did the intro discussion, but it seems like there's talking about another
Oh,
discussion.
did I not open another discussion? Let me open the other discussion, okay?
Okay,
There should be another discussion. So I just haven't opened it. All right.
okay.
I'll open it right after we finish. Okay. Anything else? And thank you for that heads up. I got to get my groove together too. Summer school has started. And there won't be any penalty for not getting a post in before Wednesday. I think you're supposed to have a certain number of points. If you get your post in by Wednesday, don't worry about that this week. You'll get maximum points, okay? All right, I'll open that post up as soon as we finish here. Anything else? And then I'll open up the quiz shortly. All right, we good? Okay. Lindsay, you hang on after we're finished here, and I'll turn off the recording and you and I'll talk for just a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
And in fact, Melissa, hang on for just a minute. Also, the two of us will talk, and then Lindsay and I'll talk for a minute more after that. Okay. So I'll say goodbye to Rhonda and Becky, and we'll talk to you later. And I'm glad all four of you tuned in tonight. It was good to see some faces. Okay. We'll see ya. Bye, girls.
Bye.
All right, I'm going to stop my recording.